Welcome back. The Harlem Children's Art Carnival, founded in 1969, continues to be a vibrant hub for arts and culture in the community. The organization has nurtured young talents who have gone on to achieve international recognition and success. Interim Chair of the Board of Trustees at Harlem's Children's Art Carnival, Michael Unthank, joins me to discuss their mission. Michael, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Now, can you share more about the origins and the mission of the Harlem's Children's Art Carnival?
Right. Well, the Children's Art Carnival was founded in '69, as you said, by the late artist, the late Betty Blayton Taylor, who was one of the trailblazing artists during the Black Arts Movement in New York and in Harlem. And she founded the organization as kind of a community outreach, education outreach program of the Museum of Modern Art. And then in '72 established it as an independent organization at the location where we're still working at, 62 Hamilton Terrace in Harlem, in West Harlem. Her original mission was really about teaching life skills and self-expression through the arts for young people. And that's hence the name Children's Art Carnival. There's been a lot of changes since then, 40, 50 years of kids running up and down the stairs in our building. And after the passing of Betty Blayton Taylor in 2016, we've been trying to rebuild the organization. And we've been working to focus more on artists as well as residents and young people and their families.
Now, how are you commemorating, all of these significant milestones, especially, with, serving children in Harlem for over 50 years?
Well, it's our 55th year, and who could believe it? It's a long time. I'm probably older than most of your listeners are. So, and I try to explain 50 years. It's not easy. But it's 55 years this year, and we are celebrating by having doing some fundraising. We have a big fundraising renewal event coming up on the 3rd of June in Harlem, and we have a GoFundMe campaign that's going on right now, and need everybody's support. We've been very successful in kind of relaunching what the Children's Art Carnival means. It's been a landmark organization. However, the past few years have been, I would say, since 2012 or so, we've been rebuilding, and so we've been had a little less of a profile. But in the past couple of years, we've been, as I mentioned, working hard to kind of incorporate some of Betty's ideas and broaden the scope to some extent. To support a lot of the West Harlem artists, emerging artists who need support. So we have artist studios in the building, workspace for our artists in the building. We have we host the Hamilton Heights Dark Room, which is one of the only black and white dark rooms left in the city, believe it or not. So through the dark room, there are workshops for aspiring photographers, where they actually learn how to take a picture and what a picture is, not just a digital image. So that's been moving forward. Also, we have a series of participatory workshops, which is open multi-generationally for everyone in the community. Upcoming, we have workshops every month in watercolors taught by a very well-known artist, Tomi Mori. And we have professional development seminars for some of our artists, and upcoming we will have a artist bio workshop coming up in June.
That's amazing. Now, I'm curious to know a little bit more about the professional development. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and does it help, these young people go into careers that are more leaning towards, artistic career paths?
Well, Betty's original idea was that not everyone who can benefit and enjoy the arts and even really be proficient doesn't necessarily mean they would take a career in the arts, but it's about a skill and your life. So one of the needs, I think, among West Harlem artists is that the resources that are really downtown are less accessible to them for a variety of reasons. So what we are trying to do is bring more resources uptown, such as workspace. Betty had a legacy with coming out of the Black Arts movement, and in a certain sense, almost as a byproduct, she created, in a teaching environment, she created a laboratory for emerging artists at that time to create a voice, to get their work out, and to provide a laboratory for training for them. And a lot of them are very well-established artists now, and they are coming back to help us in a variety of ways. So one of the legacy projects that we've been working on is in combination with, in partnership with the Robert Blackburn Printmaking Workshop, which was founded by Robert Blackburn, who was a very close partner and collaborator with Betty back in the late 60s. And his workshop still exists. The workshop and the Children's Art Carnival, in a certain sense, had a parallel mission, which was to try to develop the voices of black artists and artists of color to get them greater recognition and greater visibility. So our collaboration now, we're working with them to develop a printmaking workshop uptown. So there are a number of things that we're doing to really celebrate our 55th year and to move the carnival forward.
Now, how has the CAC influenced Harlem's cultural landscape over the past 5 decades? And I also really love to ask this question because Harlem has so much artistic just life, in the area. Even just walking down the street, the restaurants, kind of add to that artistic just environment. And there's just so much life bursting in, I don't want to say the borough because it's not its own borough, but it kind of feels like that sometimes. So, how has your organization kind of influenced the community and vice versa?
Well, you're right. You walk down the street in Harlem. I live right around the corner from the carnival. I've been there for decades, and I don't think I would really want to live anyplace else in New York City. It is very much its own place. It's got a very clear identity, although, certainly in the past 10, 15 years, a lot has been changing in Harlem. We have more restaurants. We actually have banks, which when I moved in wasn't the case, with the exception of Carver. And so we've moved forward quite a bit as a community. Betty's establishment of the carnival, and the carnival became a landmark as a part of Harlem's resurgence as an arts and cultural center back in the 60s. The artists who participated in the Black Arts movement and the community supported the art carnival. Its building is very distinct and unique. Again, a lot of the young people that came through the carnival became fairly well known and successful artists, and many of the artists who worked and taught at the carnival have very successful careers and are considered to be master artists at this time. So Betty, as part of her legacy, also was one of the co-founders of the Studio Museum in Harlem, and at that time there were many institutions that have been built. Barbara Ann Teer's National Black Theater is another example. And those organizations, and organizations in the Bronx, as I mentioned to you earlier, we have a partnership with Enfoco, which is a very well-known photographers collaborative, which started in the South Bronx, basically for Puerto Rican artists at the time, but Latino artists, photographers, and of course they've expanded their mission to some extent now. But all of those organizations were really founded for the same purpose in a certain way, to give more visibility and more resources to black artists. And so that's been the contribution, I think, in its own place of CAC in Harlem, and continues today.
Now, throughout our conversation, I really want to highlight the importance of recognizing Black artists. Can you explain why that is so important and why we should continue to kind of have this platform for so many people who want to explore that side of themselves, but may possibly not feel comfortable in other areas?
Well, the voices the expression of black artists, artists of color, is what really, in a certain sense, brings alive the arts community throughout New York. The small arts organizations throughout the city, not just in Harlem, but throughout the city, support the arts and cultural infrastructure of the city in ways that are often invisible, but very, very important. To support the larger institutions, to support New York City as a cultural capital, really, in so many ways of the world. And Harlem is a great part of that. So we think it's very important to continue to provide resources for black artists, both established, create a pathway, provide as much of a pathway as we can for established artists to work with younger aspiring artists, and to keep the arts alive as an aspiration for many of our young people. It's a great pathway, and so I think that it's critical in terms of the health of our arts and cultural community here in New York. New York is a very unique, very dynamic, extremely attractive place for people. Even in our crazy throes that we're going through right now, can't beat New York. And the arts and culture are a major part of that.
Right. Well, I want to agree 1,000%. I think that's what, as you mentioned, people come to New York. Unfortunately, it could be affecting, native New Yorkers in a certain way. But, I think that it's amazing that we have people come here and kind of want to share and kind of live that experience with us. And I, want to thank you for joining us and sharing a little bit of, what Harlem brings to the world right here in the Bronx. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
To learn more about the amazing organization, please go to their website at childrensartcarnival.org. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Jaime on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.